Welcome to the Society Pod, a podcast for entrepreneurs, marketers, and leaders. Here's your host, Jessica Yarmy.
All right. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Society Pod. My guest today is amazing. She is a postgraduate psychology researcher at Yale, an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Her first effort was at age 11, a content creator and a marketing whiz who has worked alongside Gary Vee. So, of course, just by association,
Wow.
I fangirl with you for sure. But most importantly, you're doing all of these things at a super young age. And I am so impressed by you always. So I can't wait to catch up with you and have this conversation with you. So welcome to this show, Mona Sinha.
Thank you. Wow. That makes me actually feel like I've done something with my life. I always feel like I'm not doing enough.
How can you say that?
I think I've always just felt like I'm not doing enough and I need to be doing more towards whatever goal that I have.
Where
Imposter
does that
syndrome?
come from? Yeah, where does let's dig into this. We're gonna do a therapy sesh. Where does that come from?
I'm sure a part of it has to do with the way I was raised. Like my family is full of academics and it's either doctor or engineer. And so from a very young age, it was all about studying like math and science and getting good grades and all of that emphasis on education. I feel like I tied my self-worth to my accomplishment or to what I've done for work and so yeah, I feel like it's not great, but it's also a really great thing that pushes me forward. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
It's always just like got to do more. Yeah.
I'm 45 and still dealing with that, like accomplishments tied to or self-worth tied to accomplishments. Like it's a difficult thing to unravel and unpack, but it seems like you are not just driven academically, but then you're driven in all of these side hustles and like pursuing your passions as well. So tell us about your first entrepreneurial effort and where that all came from.
I grew up an only child, and being new to the country, it was pretty lonely, I think. And so I was bored at home, and we just got a dog. And the iPod Touch just came out, and I saved up to get one. And I opened an Instagram account for our family dog, and he hit like 140,000 followers. This was early Instagram, so it didn't really require strategy. But I was just 11 posting pictures of him. And I got a sewing machine, started making some bandanas and bow ties for our dog and little crafts for him. And people wanted to buy it. Like apparently it was a thing that people were interested in. So without telling my parents, I like looked up how to make a website. I like set up the dog collars and portraits, like these really bad sketches. I mean, I'm not the worst artist, but I like sold it for like $20, like customized pet portraits and paracord dog collars, all these products. And I connected it to a PayPal account in which I said that I was 18 so I could open one. But it worked. And within the first couple of weeks, I had a ton of sales coming in. And I didn't know what to do because then I was like, I can't drive to the UPS store. Like, I can't do, I'm 11. Like, I was like, and the fabric I was using to make these products was like our donation clothes, which can only be used once. And I was out of. So I'm like, where now do I cut up my own clothes? And so yeah, I had to tell my parents, and we went to Joann's, got some fabric and dropped it off at UPS, and they weren't super stoked in the beginning, I think, just out of fear of like, you've accepted money from total strangers on the internet, and like, what is the legality of this? Like, we're not citizens. Like, there's just some concern around like what the heck I'm doing. But yeah, they came around over a long period of time. They like understood that it just came, it was fun to me. I didn't know what entrepreneurship was. I quite literally didn't know what that word was. I don't have any early memory of someone in my family owning a business. I think it was just a game to me. Like, it was just fun. I'm like, wait, another sale? Like, I get to, okay, gotta spend like 30 minutes sewing up this bow tie and like improving it with each time too. Like, my first bow tie or bandana, dog bandana, was a literal like triangle. I cut out a triangle piece of fabric and I sold that. But by the time I was in high school, I had like this intricate like layout of like how to create the two three yay 2 3 layers of fabric on top, and how to um have it last longer, and certain how to wash it correctly. Like I had it actually improved, like, and I thought it was just really fun, and it didn't feel like pressure to me. It actually felt like a relief from school, and a relief from everything else. So yeah, I guess it was like my video game kind of.
I love the fact that it is definitely like squarely your first entrepreneurial effort, and it taught you that lesson of just put something out there and iterate it, figure it out.
Yeah.
And you just said that to me just before we started, like, well, you just dive in and figure it out. And that's such a trait that a lot of older entrepreneurs don't have, let alone to be 11 and to say, you know what, we're just going to send it and
Yeah.
figure it out as we go.
Yeah, I think I just kept saying yes. Like there was I distinctly remember there was a custom order request. There was someone in the UK who requested a rat coat. Like a coat for their rat. And I was like, yes, I can do that. And they like chose the fabric and everything. And I got at least, I want to say $50 to $80 because it was for 2 rats. And the order came in. I'm like, how the heck do I make a coat for a rat? Like, but I
Oh
said
my
yes. And then
gosh.
I'm like trying to figure it out. And I looked up how to make a coat for like a cat or a dog, and like how to downsize it. And I was like, Mom, you have to help me make a coat for a rat. Like, I really, I don't know what I'm doing. But I did. We made it, and it had like a little Velcro, and I sold the coats for a rat. Just, I said yes. And I think the more I said yes, that's how my product expanded. It was just bandanas, and then someone wanted a matching collar, so I got like the hardware, like the clasp and the D-ring and all these pieces and the nylon, and just figured it out. I was like, just watch some videos and try a few times. The first several were probably not great quality, but yeah, I think I sort of, especially because I was 11, I feel like that's something that became programmed into me, is just like anything is possible. You just if you care enough about it.
How
Yeah.
long did you stay in this entrepreneurial game? And tell us how you exited it.
I stayed in it. I started at 11, and I kept running the company until I was 16. I can't share some details about how I exited it because there is an NDA involved, but it was a great it was a great way to part with the company. And then I kind of realized that I left the company with a lot of skill. I knew how to design graphics and design a website, and I had all these random skills. And I was getting really into music as well. Um, I was getting more in tune with my creative side. I was getting older, so I was a little more rebellious, I think, of not wanting to go the route my family went. And I was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be a musician. I'm not going to go to college. And so, yeah, I think 16 onwards, I got into management. Like I started managing coffee shops and gyms and artists, and following Gary, and took all of his advice to heart. He said, if you want to do your own thing, just don't take a penny from your parents. And I was like, okay. um, and yeah, I think obviously I circled back to academia in some way, but yeah, I started offering services. At one point I had probably a team of 12 in my company, running, probably managing multiple clients who are probably names that people would know in the entertainment industry. And that was a different level of stress for sure. It was more like I was less in the day-to-day operations and more just like, how do I keep the team together? If there's conflict, how do I manage that? How do I streamline the content process? How do I keep the client happy? Because if I have a high retainer client who dropped, what does that mean for the people who I'm paying, whose rent that I'm basically covering as for
Right.
salaries? And those are problems that I had to deal with. I mean, I'm 22 right now, so yeah, it was a lot to navigate.
You're crazy, number one, with everything that you've done. and I don't even want to say accomplished. I'll just say everything you've learned, because
Yes.
as you and I have talked, I think of my entrepreneurial pursuits as basically an MBA in business that was, I don't want to say
Right.
free, because there was definitely a cost to it, but like you just learn so much by building
Oh yeah.
something and then exiting it. And the fact that you built something, exited it at 16, and then have proceeded to build more
The
things
next.
along the way, and then you're sitting at 22 basically with 4 or 5 business MBAs in your hip pocket. You really have such a background to be able to go and do whatever you want to do, build whatever you want to build, and either pursue the entrepreneurship thing
Mm-hmm.
or go and do anything. Like you truly have the ability to go and do anything.
It's a lot of fun. I guess I've never seen it that way, but I love reframing that as not necessarily an accomplishment, but a learning experience that a lot of people never have. I mean, obviously not everyone runs businesses, but I think I learned so much, and it's easy to see. Like, I'm on my third company now, and it's easy to see uh, the there was success with at least the first and second, but really behind all of that was like hundreds of things gone wrong, like so many things gone wrong. I've launched entire products and not wasted, but spent thousands of dollars on things that, looking back on it, I don't blame myself. I mean, you can't blame a 13-year-old for not knowing business strategy, but but
Yeah.
yeah, hiring the wrong people or hiring in the wrong way, not having the right contracts, losing a lot of money, and a lot of like mini project ideas, like so many have just come up. And but it's like, I think Gary says this in one video. It's like you can start 100 projects and drop the ball on half of them, but at least you got like 50, as opposed to someone like just having one idea and thinking and thinking
Yeah.
and thinking and never executing. So for me, it was like shortening that time from idea to execution and let half the balls drop. I mean, it's fine, but at least I'm like, I have all of these that
Yeah.
I'm trying to like toss and see what sticks.
The biggest thing that I see people doing wrong is just
Mm-hmm.
over strategizing or trying to perfect the plan and not just
Yeah.
getting out there and doing it. And I think that's such a lesson that you again learned super early, just to get out there, do something, take action, learn, be okay with failing, be okay with knowing that that failure is going to bring you learnings to help the next version.
Mm-hmm.
But it all stems from taking action, which brings me to the next thing that I want to talk about, like historical with you, and then we'll get into like what you're doing now. But I want you to tell the story about how you initially connected with Gary.
Ah, that is my favorite. So I started following Gary when I was probably 14 or 15 in high school, because some musician that I met with in New York told me, after he heard my story of my first company, he's like, "Do you know who Gary Vee is?" I was like, "No," and he told me about a book to get, and I read Crushing It, and then I followed Gary, and it was weird. Like it just resonated with me, and I was like, "Wait, like I need to be watching this content," and it was kind of a safe space for me as well, because I just felt heard, because at that point I stopped caring about my grades. And so again, when you're tying your self-worth to things like that, or you've kind of been trained or conditioned to because of culture or whatever, it's hard to feel good about yourself. But I started thinking like, wait, I actually have done some things that with, and maybe my talents are elsewhere, or maybe I am capable of getting straight A's, but I am choosing to put my focus in business, and I'm kind of good at it. So yeah, I kept watching his content, it resonated with me, and I put it on my vision board at 15, intern for Gary Vee. And I just took that vision board down. It was right behind me, because I did everything on that vision board, and I made a new one. But that was the first thing I put on there: a picture of the VaynerMedia headquarters with the sign, intern with Gary Vee. And I didn't tell anybody about it because it sounded so bizarre. At that point, I hadn't started the media agency. Like, I wasn't in those circles of people. Like, it just wasn't on my radar. It seemed delusional, to be honest. But I started to see that there are people who have found him at events and talked to him. And he has all these videos with people in the community. So I started trying to figure out where he would be at. So I graduated high school in 2019. And as soon as I turned 18, he had an event at Merkin Concert Hall, I believe, in New York. I found a way in to try to talk to him, and I got a picture with him, and I told him a little bit about myself, just as an intro. Didn't ask anything of him, and I was like over the moon. I was like I posted the picture of me and Gary. I was in disbelief. I was like, there's no way I just met him. And then I was like, crap, like if I didn't ask him for a job, because I didn't want to ask something in the beginning. And so then I followed him to Texas and LA, and I missed him by just a second. Like I was 18 booking flights to try to go catch him again, spending like hundreds of dollars on flights, hundreds of dollars on event tickets and passes, and I just kept missing him. And I also kept emailing him, and I wrote some emails in Russian because I was like, maybe it'll catch his attention. And I use HubSpot CRM to track if it gets open. Now looking back on it, it could have been his admins opening it, but still, like I was like, okay, like it's just a matter of time. It's like a probability statistics thing. Like there's just no way if I do this for 10 years that I won't get to see him. And then COVID hit, and I was very discouraged. And it was on the back of my mind, but I started to focus more on my health. And then in 2021, he announced a secret wine party in New York. And he said that he's going to post the location of that party, like right as it started. Like basically, I just kept refreshing Twitter so much that I got the notification that they think I'm spam. I just kept refreshing to see what the location would be. I was in class and in college, and I left halfway through. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to go do this thing. It's a Gary V thing. And my professor was like, just go. So yeah, I camped out in New York City waiting for the location. As soon as it was posted, I drove, parked my car at a garage. The garage said we close in 30 minutes. So if you're not back, you can't come back till morning. I was like, okay, I got 30 minutes to find him. And by the time I got to the venue for the secret wine party, the line was going blocks around. And I was like, there's just no way I'm going to get in. I wasn't even 21. Like I thought, like I was like, I don't think I can get in. And this van or car like pulled up right next to my spot in the line. And Gary came out from, I think, in or around that car with a bag of shirts. And everybody in my section of the line was like grabbing a shirt from the bag. And I was like, I don't care about the shirt. Like he's right there, like a foot away from me. And I was just like, Gary, can I have like a minute and a half of your time? I was so specific. And I asked him if I could be a custodian at Vayner. I was like, can I just, come to the office and just, I'll leave it so clean, bro. Like, it'll be great. And he was just smiling and nodding. And he was just like, see you in the office. And I was like, what? Like, I couldn't, I think I literally said, I have a clip. I quite literally said, seriously? Because I just didn't know I had planned to talk about so many things. And in that moment, I was just like, whoa, what does this mean? And so D-Rock took my number, and I was elated. Oh my gosh, that drive home that day from New York, like I was freaking out. It was, I think that was like the highest point of like, just one of the highest points of my life so far, because it felt like I had put in consistent effort for years into something that I thought was delusional. And in just a second, it's now like a reality of my future. And I just didn't know how to process that. And I wanted to be sure that Gary would remember me. So I did an additional thing. The next week or so, he was going to Texas. And so I looked at all possible flights from Texas back to New York, because I was like, maybe he's probably not going to stay more than, like, I was trying to figure it out. And I looked at the timing of it. I was going to try to catch him at the airport because I wanted to talk to him, but I didn't want to waste his time. Like, I was like, if I can just catch him when he walks out of the airport, I'll just be walking along with him, and I can just remind him who I am, because it was dark. There were a lot of people that night. So I wanted in-person retargeting. That was my retargeting campaign. Just to make sure. Because by that point, Vayner was already processing my residency and stuff, so I didn't need to see him. But I paid for the parking garage at the airport. I booked a ticket to Boston, whatever the cheapest I could find, to go to the gate that I thought he would be at. There were like 4 possible flights. And I was just like, I took a gamble. I'm like, this one is probably most likely. And there were 2 flights at that gate. One left and he didn't come out. And I was like, all right, I think like it's okay. I probably just lost some time and money. But the last flight, he came out of that gate, and he was probably like startled. It was like late at night, and I was just camped out waiting for him to come out. Like, it was crazy. And I just went up to him. I'm like, Gary, hi, like it's me. He was like, and I think he was like, what's your question or something? I'm like, I have no question. Like, I have nothing to say. Like, I'm gonna be working for you soon. I just wanted you to remember me. Like, that's all. And he was just like, yeah, I'll remember you. You're the airport girl. Email me. And I was like, yes, airport
He
girl.
ends up remembering everything. However, that effort is additionally memorable.
Till this day, I don't think I've had a chance to tell him all of this actually before. So I don't know what he thinks. Like, it's just, I know one of my other friends whom you've met, Rishi, he also followed Gary at an airport. So does he just think that like he's just being followed by people at the airport? It's just, I don't know. I have no idea what he thinks. I don't know if he knew that was intentional. I also know he doesn't care, and like he's not going to be like, oh, someone's stalking me. Like, I know he welcomes this type of stuff. So if I knew it would make him uncomfortable, I probably wouldn't have. But yeah, that's quite literally, I did all of that to actually be like, thank you for giving me a job, which wasn't a custodial staff, by the way. Like, it was in the creative department. And just remember me. You won't forget now.
I love that story because so many people do the least. So many people hit send on one email and they're like, I tried. And to hear that story and you probably could summarize, like, here's all the different things that I did. And it would be just a lesson in how to bring the things on your manifestation board to life. It's one thing to have your vision board. It's another thing to go out there and push on
Chase it.
And chase it. And like, how bad do you want it? It doesn't take a whole lot of motivation to hit send on one email or to reply back to a tweet or something. But you're hopping flights, you're changing your geography, you're legitimately like on the edge. You're on the edge of stalking this gentleman, but that's how I ended up meeting Gary, and that's how I ended up meeting you. So there's a certain thing of like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And the fact that you showed him, I am crazy and I'm going to go the extra mile. So whether I'm the custodian or whether I'm your right-hand person or whether I'm on, the media team or the creative team, like, I'm going to do the most.
Yeah.
And I love that about you. And I think that story is so representative of what I know about you. And it brings me to my next topic, which I've discussed with you in the past. Are you technically Gen Z or you're technically Gen Alpha? Where are you?
I'm technically
You're on the
Gen
edge.
Z. Gen Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've seen the headlines and you know the reputation. Dave Ramsey comes out just a couple weeks ago. Air quotes. They're just awful. Snaps at Gen Z for living with their parents. Jodie Foster says Gen Z, air quotes, really annoying, especially in the workplace. They're like, nah, I'm not feeling it. And so for me, I look at those 2 headlines and then I look at what I know about you, and it's in complete disconnect. So how do you read those headlines and react to those headlines?
Okay, I think I have 3 things that come to mind. First, I would say Gen Z, I mean, there's such a generational divide that we are living in. Social media is getting more and more polarizing. There are studies on this. Like, you live in your own little digital world where you don't see other perspectives. And so growing up, for the most part in a digital environment, it increases the generational divide, I think, to where our reality is honestly very different, I think, from people who don't are not on social media as much. And you can say that's good or bad depending on your other viewpoints. But I think it is probably true that the generational divide now is greater than it was in previous generations. So that's definitely one thing. The other is I do think that me and a lot of my friends, like, a lot of people are moving back home, but can you blame us if rent is 2,200 a month for a studio in just your average town? Like, I don't know. I'm not going to get into politics and things, but the economy is not so great. Like, it's very different. So
Yeah.
I that's probably true that I do think a lot of my friends in their 20s who would probably qualify as Gen Z are living at home, but I mean, the alternative is a little bit worse, so it's actually a smarter financial move. Um, so that would be my second point of like that is probably true. And the third, I would say, I do think that I, from a young age, started spending a lot of time with like people who were older than me. Like even in high school, I talked to the teachers more than students. Like I had one or two really close friends, and then I was like talking to teachers about taxes. And then even in college, like I have not been to a single frat party, sports game. But I text half of the professors that I have, and I have a personal connection with them because I'm just so fascinated by the knowledge and even with business, like 11 or 12, like we talk about child actors being in the industry so young. Like arguably I was also in the animal welfare industry and then the entertainment industry at a very young age. So I think that I would I don't I think I also don't spend that much time with Gen Z is what I'm trying to say. Like I feel like I'm detached from my own generation a lot of the time. So um not that I would agree that Gen Z is lazy, but for me to be an example that they're not lazy is probably not the best because I think that like I don't know, like if you're an only child with immigrant parents, you're already kind of isolated from your environment. There's no sense of community and people around you. So I'm already like grew up kind of isolated. On top of that, at 11, I start talking, communicating, hiring, working with adults. So it's like I think that's key developmental years. So I don't know what it did to my brain, but I definitely don't think that like I grew up in the same way. And I think in high school, like aside from my one or two like ride or die close friends, it was almost painful to talk to other people at school because it was just like, why are we? These are the conversations I want to have, and I can't have them in this environment with these people. And maybe that's just a Connecticut thing, but um, yeah, I can't hate my own generation, but but I
Yeah.
too feel that it is at times challenging to have the conversations I want to. And now I'm like 22 and all of my friends are in their 30s or 40s and like I'm like I don't know, even now like in college I had a similar struggle of not being able to share um talk like points to talk about with people my age at least.
Relatability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I see you chasing your passions though. And I think that would be a trait that I would attach to Gen Z where you don't just
oh,
want
yeah,
a 9 to 5. You want to
that's
feel
true.
connected to what you're doing even as you've woven through different things
Mhm.
through from dogs to management to music to all the different things that you're involved with. It's
Mhm.
still there are things that are connected to who you are and like the things that you like. And what a gift to have that at such a young age. And then I just see I'm part of Gen X. I just see the older generation trying to pull young people out of that mentality. Like, no, get to
Yeah.
work, follow the traditional work structure, like show
That I
up
can agree
in the
with.
office. And I think it's there's so much fresh viewpoint that
Yeah.
your generation is bringing to how to work and and what we want from work. And
Yeah.
I just see you trailblazing through that because you've built a life that is a reflection of things that you care about and is a reflection of things that you're passionate about. but I also need an update on what you're currently doing, because you're always doing new and different things. And so give us the general update on school plus the side hustles. Like what's top of mind for you right now?
I think finally, after running businesses for half of my life almost, I have found the one thing. I think there's a book called The One Thing. Like, there's so much emphasis on, I think, older generations saying you have to pick this one thing and do it. And I love that I got a taste of being a preschool teacher and barista and all of the musician, all of these different things. But I'm finally in a place that, like, it just feels so right. And the company that I currently have just registered, but I'm not publicizing it yet. It just, everything is falling in place, and all these parts of me are just interdisciplinary parts are coming together. So I just graduated with my bachelor's in clinical psychology. I work as a postgraduate researcher at Yale School of Medicine, and the lab is called XR Pediatrics. So we're using XR, so like virtual reality, AI, all of these new emerging immersive technologies as clinical interventions for kids, meaning I get to help design a virtual reality video game for vaping prevention that's going to be in middle schools this fall in Connecticut. Like, it is just, it's so cool. Working for Gary introduced me to tech and Web3, and I'm all about that. It's where we're headed, and I know people are going to use it for negative, and it's going to amplify everything. So I'd like to figure out how we can use it for positive. And on top of that, I've personally, through all of these surface level accomplishments, I've struggled so much with my mental health. Like, that's been kind of like the underlying greatest struggle every day. And that's why I only chose to be a psych major for my own brain, to figure it out for myself. And now it's at a point where I can kind of combine my interest in technology, my interest in psychology, my interest in entrepreneurship and business, bringing that entrepreneurial, creative, we can do it all attitude and to an academic environment. It feels like I'm a tech startup at an academic university, just doing something that I really feel like is going to help so many kids. And I can do music. I mean, we need music for the video game, so I can still keep in touch with all of those different parts of me. Um, and it's just amazing. When I see all the projects that our lab is working on, it connects to some part of my life or my past in such a deep and meaningful way that I just have to believe that, like, this was meant to be. Like, all of my experiences led me to this point. I love it.
That's so
Yeah.
great that you have all the pieces like getting closer and closer and closer together on the board. And I think that's what makes you an anomaly also, is that you've had so many years in the game, even though you're so young, that you have so many pieces on the board. Like, you have the
Right.
business background, you have the entrepreneurial mindset, you have, all these different things that you've been involved in. And then you've taken an approach of go big or go home, send it, like chase Gary through airports. And so all the things that you've touched, you have a deep understanding of. And so now
I
to layer on the psychology and to tie in the tech is
Yeah.
is just really cool.
So I got this job in a similar way.
Okay.
It's not as crazy of a story, but when I was at Gary's office, when I was still working at Vayner, I would sometimes stay like very, very late, and it was just, there was some level of, like, it felt really nice. And so there was one evening, almost everybody had left the office, and I was looking up mental health and Web3, because I had this idea. Like, it felt like this just my it felt like this purpose was just popped in my brain. I'm like, wait, this tech that we're working with, like, this can help a lot of people. Like, if you want to solve or help find a solution to all the mental health problems or crime and all of the problems that we're seeing in society, the kind of segregation of ideas and polarization. Like, if you want to do something about the problems in society, where does it come back to? It comes back to education. So a kid spends as much time at home almost as they do in school. Can't change the
Hmm.
home environment, but it can do something about the school environment maybe. So I was like, this was before I did any research. I just had this idea of like, oh my gosh, like what if you taught emotion EQ skills and mental health skills and financial literacy and all of these things? Like what if you just fix the education system? Like wouldn't that just solve all these problems and help kids? Like it seems like, I don't know. And I was like, what if you had like an AI, an artificial intelligence for suicide prevention that can like screen harm, harm reduction and screen for like
Search
look at your face,
terms and
right, the
yeah,
things you're
yeah,
talking about, or analyze your facial expression or the way that you talk, and have that
yeah,
in a guidance counselor's office so that they can catch on to that, or a child that may have SI or HI and want to harm others. Like there's so many things that you can maybe install in the health classroom or guidance counselor's office using this technology, because
yeah.
VR is so powerful and AI has so much potential. And I thought I had this like crazy new idea, and then I googled it and there were like all like hundreds of thousands of papers. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like there's a whole field on this." And the first paper I read was a guy in California, Skip Rizzo. The second paper I read was Yale, my current boss, Kim Heafye at Yale. And they had used virtual reality for mental health. And I read their papers and I was like, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing here with Gary, but like, I need to kind of, you know, reverse engineer from the fact that I want to be at this lab, work with these people. And that was 2022. And now 2 years later, after emailing, there was no postgraduate role open at this lab. I just emailed them like multiple
Mm-hmm.
times. And I was
Yeah.
like, hey. So yeah, I just looked at the name on the paper of the project that I was interested in, and I had some ideas for it. I was really nervous sharing those ideas because it's Yale. I'm like, I'm sure they've already thought of it. So I left it in my draft inbox for like a year. And then last year I finally hit send on the email. I'm like, screw it. If they don't respond, it's fine. Like, why am I getting nervous now? Like, I friggin' met Gary. Like, it's worth a shot. I emailed them several times, stayed in contact, and yeah, they called me. They set up a meeting one day and they're like, we have this project. Would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna drop everything I'm doing now and come work at your lab. Like I've been reading about it for years, and it was, I hadn't tangibly put it on my vision board, but it was almost similar. That I was like, as soon as I got to Vayner, I was like, okay, I did it. Like now what? Like I know I'm not. I was transparent with Gary off the bat that I'm not staying at Vayner for like 20 years. Like this is a step in my
Mm-hmm.
journey that's very valuable, and I will give as much value as I can while I'm here. But once I finished everything on that first vision board, I'm like, what now? Like, what do I do? So yeah, I got the job here at Yale in a very somewhat similar way of
Yeah.
find the
Make it
people.
happen. Make it
And
happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if there's a 15-year-old listening to this, or even a 22-year-old listening to this, like what advice would you share with someone who's listening to this, who's looking at their vision board and is like, I'm not making any progress on any of these things and it just feels so far off?
Something I thought a lot about is like you can only fake your intentions for so long. Like, and it can only get you so far if if your intent isn't in the right place. And I think with both working for Gary and working here at Yale, like I would have done it for free just to be around those people. And I wanted to do it because I thought it would allow me to help people. Like there's this level of intrinsic motivation that I think I've always had, which drives me crazy because I'm always like trying to, even in like my deepest time of depression, like I was still like, what's next? Like I
Yeah.
don't know what caused that in me, but um I think there's a lot of things I've kind of wanted to do and it hasn't happened. And I don't blame, like there are other people I've wanted to work with or projects I've wanted to do, and it either did not work out or it didn't work out long term. But I don't say that I couldn't do it. I'd frame it that like I didn't want it badly enough, because if I wanted it badly enough, I would have done more about it. And when I started working for Gary, I wanted it I wanted my friends to like meet him, I was like, wait, now that I've like this, I'm in Vayner, like, let me help out some people who really wanted to work for Vayner, but I brought them pretty close and they didn't work for Vayner. So I'm like, I probably can't, you can't fabricate, like, I'm around plenty of people who want to work for Gary, who like the idea of it, who even really are fans of his content. But to a degree, I'm like, if you're my friend and you know me, like, if you, I don't know, like, you can really figure it out. And so I would probably advise a 15-year-old, like, if you're not making it to those goals, or you feel like you're not even chipping away at it, meaning you're not trying, because making it to the goal is just trial and failure over and over. So if you're not doing that, it's either you're afraid of failure, or maybe you're struggling with mental health, like you need to focus on your health, or you just don't want it badly enough. And if you don't know what you want, then you should probably just get a taste of a lot of things, and not feel so
Yeah.
discouraged. Yeah.
Yeah, the wrong things could be on the vision board, and
Right.
or the wrong
Yeah.
things might be someone else's vision, like it's your parents' vision that
Yeah.
you're putting on there just to service someone else's
Right.
vision. I think that's spot on.
And I think that the reason why I was so obsessed with my vision board is because I got a taste for so many things so young. Like, I did dog training, photography, mental health technician, bartender. Like, I did so many random things that, like, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And then I was a preschool teacher for almost a year. I'm like, this takes a special kind of person. I love the job, but I would like, so I don't know. I tried so many things that, like, my vision board has just gotten more and more clear. And I know that my current one, I just want everything on there so badly, and it's just for me and myself. And so yeah, I think if you're not sure what to put on your vision board, like, mine has nothing materialistic. It's fine if someone's vision board does, but it's all like, it's like an I am statement of, like, I am helping, uh I'm helping, I think, millions of people improve their quality of life. It's something like that. Like, there's things like that that are a little more vague. It's not a very specific, like, I have this much money in my account. It's more of just like,
Hmm.
I have, I am doing this thing. I am releasing my own music and art. That's something that is on my vision board, because I always want to continue to stay connected to the artistic side. Just trying a lot of things, to get clarity on what should actually be on your vision board. Because if you want it badly enough, you can do it.
Nothing's going to stop you. Give us some additional advice. Like, talk back to maybe a low point in your world, whether like mental health low or just like a season that was
Hmm.
dark, and how you navigated out of that comeback season. Like, what are some tips and tricks that you would share to help somebody navigate if they're in a low?
I think a lot of my low points, I honestly don't think a lot of people know about. I've only recently started to be able to share it with my family, because I'd never wanted them to find out things from social media. So when I've done interviews and things in the past, it's hard. But I have been in residential treatment for mental health. Like, I saved up money to put myself in, like, an inpatient program, and where it was like 5 group therapy sessions a day, 2 therapy sessions a week, and live in a house with other people. And I have been in the hospital many times. Like, I think, especially around, I can't say exactly when, but I messed around with substances and it did not end well. I had a manic episode where, like, I spent like thousands of dollars in a week on things that I didn't even remember. I've struggled so much with that, and I think now I've been at a point of clarity and stability with my mental health like never before. And it's not that it's gone away, like anxiety or things with mood or trauma, anything like that. Like, none of that has gone away, but I have so much awareness of it that it doesn't get in the way of my daily life. Like, when you become so aware of, like, your triggers or the state of your health, and, like, I kind of was obsessed with that too, of, like, I wanted to learn everything about my brain as an organ and as, like, I can't blame any one person or any group of people for why I'm so struggling so much. And yeah, so that was like just total accountability there of like no one is going to give, there's no magic fix for this. There's no magic answer. I just have to figure it out. So yeah, I went to residential I think when I was like 19. And that is why as soon as I left that program is when I decided I'm going to go to college and major in psychology just to continue learning about about my own brain health, because I felt that I was always about trying to be more productive and do more, right? So I was like, maybe if I can overcome this challenge for myself, I can do even more than I'm doing now. So yeah, I think now it does not get in the way of my it's still a struggle, but it's not hindering me from things. I've actually figured out how to turn it into more of a superpower of like, you know what, maybe there's some things I don't want to get rid of. Like if I experience like hypomania where I'm like not sleeping well for a few days and I'm like hyperfixated on something or whatever, like instead of, and this is just for me personally, I don't want anybody to quit medication, but like instead of taking a mood stabilizer and trying to fix that, like let me just is it so bad? Like what if this is the thing that caused me to start a business at 11, or this is the thing that caused me to do some crazy cool stuff and rescue like 4,000 dogs? Like do I want to get rid of this, or do I want to just learn how to manage it? And so I'm not on any medication. I don't want to be. And again, I'm not against medication. I think a lot of people do need that, especially in the beginning of that process. But yeah, there are some very, very, very low points, and I'm able to talk more and more about it as I'm kind of growing in that sense of like those are different and past versions of myself. And um I I no longer, even I still sometimes struggle with some of those things, but when I look at it, I'm like, no, those are, if any one of these things didn't happen, I would not be where I'm at right now. Working on project, this much I can say. The vaping prevention video game, like I used to vape. Like I used to be in middle school and high school. Like I used to, I mean it's I'm bringing some personal experience to some of these projects of like I not only have like run a business and done these things, but I've also like done the thing that we're trying to like the intervention
Yeah.
that we're trying to make. Like it's something I wish that I had. And I think that perspective helps me a little bit because I'm like, okay, all of those, I don't want to call it mistakes, but learning experiences that I had and things that I struggled with, like it's gonna lead to something. If it leads to
Yeah.
even one kid feeling better because I know what they're, I know what's going on and I can figure out how to help that one child, like that is just 100% made it worth it. And I will
Yeah.
share that I have all of these notes from past patients of mine, teenagers that I worked with, talking about like they left me these notes before they discharged. And when I read through that, like I get so emotional. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was the most inexperienced technician when I worked with those kids. Somehow I left with all of this, and I don't know what I did. All I did is care, and I just knew where they were at because I was there. Yeah, there's so much struggle, and I think that I'm finally at a point where I'm realizing that I have to be empathetic towards all of the parts of myself. And I think it is those parts of myself that I'm not proud of or that I did struggle with that is also allowing me to help these kids. And it's really cool. I think it's so
Yeah.
rewarding.
It's all part of
Yeah.
the puzzle. And I'm so proud of you
Yeah.
for being where you are right now with so much self awareness and then also the calling to pay it forward. And you're just perfectly positioned to do all of those things and to be that impact in people's lives. So I am certainly cheering for you from afar.
Thank you.
If there's anything that you need or want to manifest or want to throw out into the digital world, what help do you need on your new initiative? And I know you can't talk about it specifically yet, but
Yeah.
are there general things that you need?
So the company I currently own, it's the only company I currently own. It's called Polaris, and it's uh, it's something that I want. It's a product I want to design, whether it's software, whatever it looks like. I don't know. I think that'll figure itself out. But I would like for my work over the next decade in research or whatever I do, to kind of build up to this thing that I believe will help a lot of kids, because I honestly can't imagine doing anything. I just don't know what else I would do with my time, to be honest, like if I'm not doing this. So it is the only reason I'm not sharing it, it's not because of any privacy thing. It's just that it is my next delusional thing. So if I share it,
Mm-hmm.
it's like people are just going to be like, that sounds crazy. So that's the only reason I'm not sharing it, only with like, I don't know, maybe like one or two people. But it's a delusional, or let's just say like very optimistic vision of creating a product that can help kids find their purpose, improve the quality of their mental health, like all of the things we talked about today. Like, what is that one thing you want to do? What are the bottlenecks that you have? I I would love for that to be delivered in an accessible way, meaning I'd love for it to be available in schools, or in communities. I don't care if the company makes me $0. Like it really is just something that I need to do in this life. So right now, $0 in, $0 out. The company is not. There's no cash flow. I am offering an internship, um, to high school students anywhere in the country who are interested in psychology and technology. And currently, I have 3 high schoolers who are in my little Polaris Discord, and they are just helping research some things and bringing their ideas. And I think designing with these kids in mind and designing with young people is so important to me. I'm not that old, but I definitely like, I
Mm-hmm.
really, really want young people to get involved. I'm happy to give mentorship. Like I've been getting on calls with them to help them with their college applications. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really just a small group of just I'm accessible as a mentor, and let's just figure out what we can do to help people. What's the research out there? How can I help you? I would just say any high schooler that's interested in psychology, technology, or business or design or anything like that, I'm happy to talk to them and see if they want to be in my little Discord server.
I know some middle schoolers that I can send your way. One of the things that
Awesome.
I'm most impressed about with my boy, who's 13, is his ability to self-teach via YouTube.
Mm,
And I think that, not that I'm skeptical of all schools, but I'm skeptical of most schools. I think they're just set up to fail because of the range of kids they're trying to serve. And it's like the range of abilities at the age of 12 is astronomical, right? And
yeah.
I think what you're doing is super interesting. And I think it would find the right kids if you built it more as a YouTube tool. But I'm happy to
Interesting.
help
Yeah.
you in whatever way. I am so impressed by you. I'm inspired by you. I am cheering for you, and I'm happy to help you in whatever way that I can. And when you're ready to like talk more about your platform and what you're building, we can do round 2 of the podcast.
That sounds amazing. And you're totally right. I think I've been traveling and doing workshops at schools and connecting with a lot of current high school students. And I love that they found my social media, and I'm still connected with them in general. But a couple have really stood out. They kind of like sought me out the way that I sought out Gary, and I'm like, absolutely, like let's do this. And they're 16 and 17. And it's
Mhm.
just amazing to me. And I genuinely want to support in every way that I can. And I think the most rewarding thing is being able to kind of be the person that I wish that I had, and work towards building something that can help even more, on a larger
Yep.
scale. help even more young people. My
Yep.
DMs are always open. I try to get back to as many kids as I can. I've been getting a lot of messages from kids that I've worked with, and it's really awesome.
Where can people reach you if they would like to DM you?
My Instagram handle, you could probably caption it.
I'll link it. Yeah.
Okay. Shreya Mona Sinha is my Instagram handle. SHREYAMONASINHA. Hopefully it's a lot, but hopefully you can tag it. So yeah, just DM me on Instagram at Shreya Mona Sinha, and I will 100% get back to as many people as I can. I think I've managed to respond to every DM I've ever gotten. We'll definitely get back.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared today and for all of the vulnerability. We're 100% cheering for you. And we'll come back and do round 2 of this episode of the Society Pod.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Society Pod.